chest that a demented African-American woman had stabbed him in the chest on the street, came up supposedly to get an autograph or something. She did not agree with his message, and that was her way of expressing her disagreement. He got to the hospital, and there was an African-American heart surgeon, and he removed the weapon from Dr. King's chest. And basically, his message, the doctor said, Dr. King, this was so close to your, I guess it was a main artery perhaps, but it was so close that if you had sneezed, you would have died. And as that story was shared, Dr. King himself told my mother that when she called to see about him on the phone. And little school children from all over America, one little girl, a little Caucasian girl, dear Dr. King, I'm so glad you didn't sneeze. And it was the most precious letter. And I think somewhere in the archives that's still there. So we all, of course, were very glad that he didn't sneeze. And we had him for a while longer. But you could see in his face, the expression on his face. You can see the peace and the love there. This is a man who had been violently attacked. But look at his face. No hatred at all. He carried no hatred in his life. He was a very loving and forgiving man. And I practice that myself. And sometimes people are like, this must be crazy. You don't get angry. I was riding, my son is 22, my youngest. And we were riding this week, and he was driving. And he kind of went around the workday with me. He said, this is what you do every day. I said, mm-hmm. He said, man, I don't see how can you do this? So as we were driving, there was a big truck, several-wheeled truck, and the truck made an obscene gesture, which I won't duplicate, but made an obscene gesture to my son. And he edged us over and forced us out of the lane, really. And we were in the right. So my son began to turn around and plan to make a gesture back at the guy. And I said to my son, I said, you're driving my car, and this is me in here. You're with me today. So learn this. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Well, Mom, did you see what he just did to me? I've got to do that. I said, son, and 2 fools will make a fight. And so he stopped, and he changed his attitude. And then I was reminded that I'm going to have to tell him about it, this story. My daddy and my uncle were riding in a car, and they used to go around, they were called the Sons of Thunder. And so they were going somewhere to preach, and they were young men. And they were on the road, and my uncle tells this in one of his speeches. There's a series of his messages called A Knock at Midnight. In one of the sermons, he said they were driving on this road, and it was a lonely highway at night. And they were going one direction, and the car coming towards them. As the car came towards them, it flashed its bright lights. And as it flashed its bright lights, my dad happened to be the one driving. And they called each other brother, brother. They called their sister, sister. And so Dad said, brother, I'm going to shine my headlights back in his face, as bright as I can. And then my uncle said, but brother, that's not what we need to do. We don't do evil for evil. We do good for evil. And so he talked my father down from the position of wanting to shine the lights back. And then here it is in the 21st century. I'm having to convince my son not to repay evil for evil. And so those are the values, that's the way we grew up. Okay, next slide, please.